what is it that you find easy to translate from a comic to a TV show or back and forth, or
Well,
either way?
Maybe I'll just tell you a little bit about how we did it.
Sure.
So I was working on a TV show, and I was in the writers' room in Los Angeles, and I was living away.
Sword of Omens, come to my hand. I, Lion-O, command it. Thundercats, ho!
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do this fancy panel here. All right. I'm John Johnson of Pint of Comics, here to host the lovely panel with Owen King, writer, producer, whatever. What else have you got lined up in there?
Well, I had some sour cola, licorice ropes, or I had a single. It was a rope is about as long as my arm, and I have pretty long arms. I ate the whole thing while I was wandering around the floor of Terrificon, and it was delicious. So that's something else I can do, is eat licorice.
Eat licorice while you're walking a convention floor. Yeah.
And I didn't, stumble in anybody's display or hurt myself.
Are you enjoying your time here at Terrificon?
Yeah, I'm, having a great time. I haven't done a lot of Comic Cons. I've done a lot of book fairs and bookstores and comic store events. But my friend Charles Soule has been telling me that Terrificon is his favorite con, that has a very low-key atmosphere. And so he got me to go, and it's actually kind of interesting. Charles writes Star Wars comics, and he is sort of like my Comic-Con Jedi master. And he explained to me what I had to do to prepare a table. He was like, okay, you got to have such and such stuff with you. You got to have like a little display, and you've got to have like this banner behind your table. And then he was like, oh, you've got to have a Square credit card thing, and like a little box to make change. And he also said, and you have to have hand sanitizer. And I was like, okay, and I like wrote it all down, and I did it all, and I actually feel like I'm doing a passable job as a comic convention person. And I gotta have to do at least one more convention after this, because I put enough. I feel like I am getting the hang of it, but I went through all this work of like setting up all the things I would need. So. Yeah.
Well, you're
so hats off to Charles.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're set right up next to Kyle Baker, a well-regarded comic book artist and writer. And it's an interesting pairing, I think,
yes,
between yourself and him, who's all these crazy comic books that he's done, and then your stuff, the horror books, and then self-help,
which is a crime comic book. Yes.
Right. And one that I just read yesterday. I was very excited to read something that you had done, because when I found out about all the books that you had written, I just didn't have enough time to squeeze them in beforehand. And all the other incredible things that you worked on, it's just, you've got quite the resume.
Yeah, I like to do something different every time. Kind of obsessive about it, actually. It's funny. Maybe the book that I'm doing now feels a little bit more like a mix of some things that I've done, but it doesn't seem quite as much of a departure. I'm not like writing a romance novel next, but I did some mainstream fiction, and then I did Sleeping Beauties, which is a horror novel, and I did The Curator, which is a fantasy novel, and Self-Help is a crime graphic novel that I wrote with my friend Jesse Kellerman. Ongoing series, actually. It's only half done. And I've mixed in a few other things along the way, but I think it's what that sort of, I don't know, pressure that I put on myself to, okay, what are you going to do that's different this time? Gets me excited, because it's sort of setting up that challenge for myself. But I like writing a book and then working in some different mediums in between.
Sure.
Because writing books is the hardest. It's probably my favorite thing to do, but it's a ton of work. It's several years, whereas when I write a script or when I write a screenplay or a teleplay or a comic book script, the turnaround time is a little shorter, and it's collaborative. It's not quite as lonely.
Yeah.
And it sort of helps recharge the batteries for that next book.
When it comes to the comics, though, you're working collaboratively, is there something you enjoy about that more so than just doing the novels, or do you like the solitude of doing a novel?
Yeah, I'm into it when I'm into it.
Yeah.
But it's, there's that thing about writing a book where you have to resign yourself to the possibility that you're going to lose like 6 months of your life on something you can't do, right? Because you start and you're like, okay, I'm going to give this 6 months. I'm going to work every day that I possibly can on this, try to keep my other deadlines at a minimum. And then after 6 months, it's possible that you could be like, oh, this isn't working, or this isn't working the way I tried it. I've got to try it a different way.
Sure.
Right? So that part of it is, it never stops being daunting, but you also just kind of have to take that risk and have some confidence in yourself. And most of the time it's okay.
So I'm gonna ask probably a question you get a lot.
Sure.
But, being from a family of writers, I mean, everybody seems to write in your family. Do you ever ask for assistance from them, or do they offer, or do you just keep it to yourself and don't let them see it until you're finished with the project?
I don't ask for a lot of guidance until I have a lot of something.
Yep.
Because it just feels so speculative until you have a lot, right?
Yeah.
For me, it does anyways, because I do a certain amount of outlining, but that only gets you so far. You have to actually try to write it and see if this is going to work the way that you think it's going to work. And then once you have that, once I have that, I can, take that large chunk of material and show it to other people, and say, I think this is working. How's this working for you? And if it's not, maybe when I'm done with something, I might have like a specific question.
Sure.
But that's a long way of saying I don't like to show things until they're pretty far along.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like 90%, but I like to have like 40-50% of something before I show somebody.
Yeah, I get it. I whenever I write something, I never like to show anybody anything. It's just weird to me. I don't want to.
Yeah.
And I don't like to be influenced, so I don't know if that would work for you too.
No, that doesn't bother me
No?
too much, because I just think that it's funny. There's this, I've told this story a million times, but I did a book event with a novelist I really like named Amity Gage, and she said this thing. This is 10-15 years ago now, but it's stuck with me. She said, somebody asked her if she was worried about people that she knew recognizing themselves in her book. And she said, the people who think they see themselves in your writing are the people you would never use as as the basis of characters. And it struck me as so true. But I also think that a lot of times someone might do something. They might have a habit. They might have a way of speaking. They might have one particular quality or something about their bearing that's interesting to me, and I might use that. But by the time I'm done with that, it's something totally different than what I started with. But just to go back to what you said about showing writing, I think this is something that aspiring writers should keep in mind a little bit. It's important to get feedback.
Sure.
But if you have a good reader, a smart reader who's going to give you good feedback, don't waste them too soon, or because they have a limited amount of reads they can give you while still being useful.
Okay.
I read all the time in the acknowledgments of books. It'll be like, and thanks to Joanne, who read this more times than I can remember. And I'm always like, gee, I mean, after Joanne read it twice, what was she giving you, right? Because it's hard. It's hard to see something fresh after a couple reads. And so my wife, Kelly, is a fabulous novelist, and I don't want to waste her
Right.
as a reader on a project too soon. I probably have I could show her something when it's like 40% done, and then I could show it to her when it's done, and then maybe I could show it to her one more time after I rewrote it. Maybe. But then after that, what's she going to give me? Because it's too much.
Does she read everything you do?
Yeah, eventually.
Eventually.
But I don't want to use it up.
Right.
I want to get the manuscript to a place where she sees as much of what I could come up with, in that initial draft as possible.
We were talking earlier at his table, and we were talking about the comic book. Self-help and everything, and that you grew up reading comics, and now that you've got one out there, and the similarities between a comic book and a TV show, and how they kind of interact, or even a movie for that matter, and anything cinematic, anything filmed. There's some similarities between comics and the moving picture. What is it that you find easy to translate from a comic to a TV show, or back and forth, or
well,
either way?
Maybe I'll just tell you a little bit about how we did it.
Sure.
So I was working on a TV show, and I was in the writer's room in Los Angeles, and I was living away on my own for the first time as an adult, without my family. It's just weird. And I've never lived in California, and I was living in the Universal Studios hotel. So it was like by the Universal City Walk in Los Angeles, which is where there's all these amusement park rides, and there's a 2-dimensional minion. I think it's Kevin, and he sort of looms over the park.
The actual minion.
And yeah, he's huge. And he sits there above the hills, and the City Walk has got all these restaurants and all these amusement park rides, but all the restaurants are like chain restaurants. So it's like you can eat at Margaritaville, or you can eat at Voodoo Donuts or whatever. And so it was like I was living in an amusement park, and I would go out to Copperwood Canyon every day, and we'd meet in this house and work on the whiteboards to get the show outlined. And it's like you work 9 to 5, and it's just a regular gig that way. But then I would go back, and I would drive my rental car back to the hotel, and on the 405, and it was just a crazy life, because I'd be driving home to my hotel, where I would ride an elevator with like The Rock jumping out of a fire on the inside of the inside of the elevator door. There was like one that was like Vin Diesel punching somebody, and that was my life. And on the 405 there were always like brush fires and stuff, so you'd just be driving in traffic along with everybody else, and the hills were on fire around you. And so it was a really strange life, and it was a fun life, but it was also very lonely and very, very odd for me. And so I called up my friend Jesse Kellerman one night, who's a Southern California native, and he's a crime writer. He's been nominated for the Edgar, and I love his writing, and he's a dear friend. He's been a friend for 15 or 20 years now. And I was telling him about it. I was like, God, is this normal? Is this what life is like here in Los Angeles, or am I going crazy? And Jesse was like, no, that's actually what it's like to live in LA. And we started talking, and I was like, we should do something with this feeling that I have, this feeling of displacement, and this feeling of surreality. And so we started spitballing, and I can't remember how we came up with it, but the idea was, there's this guy who's really up against it, and it feels like his life is hopeless. He's driving a rideshare, and his marriage is messed up, and he's got financial problems, and he can't get out of this fix. And on top of everything else, he's like the identical spitting image of this guy who's a self-help guru who sells a very almost violent self-help theory based on sort of like squashing your enemies, right? And so all day long, this one guy who drives for a rideshare and is struggling and is separated from his child, who he's pining to see for reasons we as the audience don't really understand. People keep mistaking him for this person who is like a super asshole who's very successful, and then the idea is like, well, what if they crossed? And I can't remember exactly how we came up with all the details, but we talked about it that night after I was done with work one day, and the idea of the sort of the classic Prince and the Pauper idea of the pauper stealing the prince's identity, but then making it all about people that are great big liars. The pauper isn't who he seems to be, Prince isn't who he seems to be. Somehow we came up with all that, and we started talking about it as a TV show, and I said, I think this would work really well as a comic, and that way we have something, and we can try this different thing, and so that's what we did. And I think that to me the biggest difference is that when you're writing a comic book, we're very specific about the story points and the details, but there is this license that you're giving, that you have to give the artist. Mm-hmm. Our artist is a wonderful artist named Mariana Ignazi for the first run of Self-Help, and she's sort of like has to make some choices that only she can make. Mm-hmm. And it would be insane to be like, no, the point of view needs to be tilted like 20 degrees, it has to be coming up instead of down or whatever, and you have to afford her some leeway, and she did a brilliant job with it. And it was super fun. Yeah.
Now, is there a correlation between that and TV writing, or is
I think it's a lot alike. I mean, the one thing is that you're, instead of saying, interior cafe, West Hollywood day, Jerry sits at a at a table in the corner reading The Art of War. The background shows the decor is like there's some soccer players in frames and like maybe coffee bags nailed to the wall or something like that. Yeah. And that's the panel, right? Whereas if it's like a TV script, it's more like we follow a young woman to Jerry's table, so you're ascribing, you're giving the movement, and you might do more about like, I don't know, the sounds, or just be specific in a slightly different way. But when you're writing a comic book, you just get the one panel. Yeah. When you have to make harder choices about what will give a sense of motion. Sure. Right? So he's sitting at the table, she's above him at the table, she's standing, he's sitting, then she gets him and she's doing a selfie, and it's like that would all be like the scene. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's different, but somehow it seems to have a weirdly similar time signature. Right. Like the minute of a page of script kind of ends up feeling sort of like a minute. If you do like a 20-page comic book, it almost feels like a minute a page. Almost. Just kind of depends on what you're seeing.
Do you find it more difficult to write? Well, let's put it this way. Did you write it in a script form for the comic, or
yeah, but panels
by panels?
Yeah, but it's like panel one. Yeah, we use some of the same stuff some of the same shorthand that you would use for a TV script, because it seems helpful. Yeah. But no, it's not. It's not. It's broken.
Yeah.
Panel 1, panel 2, 1.1, 1.2,
Right,
1.3.
Do you find it difficult to write in a script form compared to a novel?
No, I love it.
Really?
Right, because you don't have to. I tend to write in what you would call like a third person close or like free and direct discourse or whatever you want to call it. And so that's like a point of view that's capturing like a little bit of the tone of the character whose shoulder you're sitting on. And that's really hard to figure out how that person sounds in that filter. Whereas when you write a script, or screenplay, or a teleplay, or a comic book script, you're just telling the artist who the person is, what they look like, and what they're kind of expressing.
Okay.
It's all telling, and they're the one that's going to do the showing of what you told them. There's not like that language part of it that's really hard.
Interesting.
That tone thing.
Okay. I've heard some they do not like writing in script form for whatever reason, and find it either more difficult or just embarrassingly hard to do.
Well, think about it this way. So suppose your character is being chased by a like rabid dog, like a rabid pit bull up the street, right? That's your main character is being chased by a rabid pit bull. So you would have if I was writing that scene in prose and I was using free and direct discourse, I would have to not just say what it looks like, I have to explain what the character's feeling as he's running.
Okay.
So he's not just like seeing like the lights of Broadway up ahead of him and hearing the dog. He's also like thinking like, how does that make him feel that he's being chased by this rabid dog? And so, if you did that in a teleplay or a screenplay or a comic book script, it's like one page, but not that many words. Right. It gets very dense it could be very dense in prose, and that's hard.
Do you not like being dense when you write out your prose, or do you like to?
No, I love to do, but it's just like extremely time consuming. It's exceedingly time consuming. So it's just there's an economy that goes with script writing that's totally different, and I love both things, but I don't get. It's not as stressful and this is different. It's like cooking different kinds of meals, and but it's all rewarding. It's just different.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just it's rare that I can actually speak to somebody that's been able to write in all these different formats, if you want to put them that way. Comics, TV, and novels. There's not a lot of people that are capable of doing it well. I think is one way of saying it. And then a lot of folks I've run into are doing ghostwriting. There's people doing ghostwriting for them. So I'm never sure how much they've actually done. So I like it.
I was wondering how that works with ghostwriting. I sort of understand when you like what it would be like perhaps to write somebody's. So if you were going to write like, I don't know, some famous rock singer's memoir, so I think you would sit down and you would interview them.
One would hold.
You would interview them for many, many hours, and then you would write something and you'd show it to them, and they'd be like, okay, this is it, or this isn't it.
Right.
I get that kind of ghostwriting.
Sure. Yeah, it's different though. I have a question for Ryan, because I think you've actually read most of what he's written, correct? Yeah. Are you able to tell it's him from?
So actually, if I had the opportunity to ask a question, I'll finish.
Sure. Yeah. Go.
Let me get my camera.
Please do.
In the sense of like sounding the same from project.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, with Sleeping Beauties, what would you say is your most standout part that you wrote, or your favorite part that you wrote?
Oh, well, that I can't say because that's not how we did it. So what I can tell you is this: we outlined the book, and then we we would take turns writing chapters, but because I mean, I said to my father, I am conscious of people being a lot more excited to read your part of the book than mine. And this is an experience that he'd had with Peter with Talisman, where after, it's a beautiful book and people love the book and they love the whole book, but I think that neither one of them were super pleased with the idea that people were looking at it and being like, well, this is Peter's or this is Steve's, and sort of trying to figure it out. And I said, I was aware of that, and I said, if we're going to do this, what I would like to do is within each chapter leave a space. And so when I write a chapter, say it's got 5 parts, I'm going to leave a part that I'm going to choose, and you're going to fill that in. And then you do the same for me. So whoever wrote chapter 1, say it had 5 parts, they might have left part 4 for the other person, and one of us would say, if it was me, I'd say, this is the part where I was thinking that this happened, that was in the outline, go to it. And then the other thing we did, which to me is I've had a lot of successful collaborations. I take a lot of pride in the fact that all the people that I've collaborated with still like me. But one of the things that I like to do is say whoever is writing, they have the conch, like in Lord of the Flies. It's your book, it's your screenplay, it's your story when you're the one writing, and that means you can change anything previous that you don't like, Now we'll have to kill each other if you change everything, right? Because it'll just be a contest of who, and it would be so time consuming, right?
Sure.
But that never was a problem, So we weren't changing tons of stuff, but we were mixing each other.
Yeah.
And so I love the fact that the book feels like it was written by a third guy, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because it's something that I think is important, that you have your own voice, and if you're able to pull that across all these different projects and different types of stories, that's kind of cool, So I'll have to dive in and see if I can find your voice,
Well, I mean, it's some of it's going to sound a little bit. It's going to be, the Curator, which was my last novel, it's a Victorian. It's set in a Victorian world. It's set in our world at about the turn of the 19th century, and it's in this unnamed city, but things that we know, like London and Paris and stuff, get mentioned, so we know that it's somewhere in a world that we sort of recognize. It's purposely written to catch the echo of like Victorian novels, so it does not sound like my other books, but there's a humor to it that I hope that is familiar, or like some of the tonal things I hope are familiar to people that have liked my other things, so that maybe they'll like this. And maybe people that like that will go back and be like, oh, this, book about filmmakers has some of the same vibe, even though the language choices are really different because they're trying to do different things.
Yeah. And you used a lot of the dialect from that period.
I did. You did. Or I tried to, again, I don't want to, I'm not going to like ape Dickens or Trollope or Elizabeth Gaskell, right? But what I am going to do is, or what I tried to do was push my prose to a slightly artificial place that's like a little bit reflective of, the way that sentences in popular novels and that I was influenced by are a little bit more extended.
Mm-hmm. Influenced.
Prose, yeah.
Do you get influenced by a lot of things like that? I mean, when you write other books and
well, I didn't read any Victorian novels while I was writing the book. Those are like my very favorite books, but I didn't get to read any for like 3 years because I didn't want them in my head.
See,
right?
yeah.
So there is a little bit of anxiety of influence. So if I was writing, a crime novel or like I was writing the crime comic. I didn't read any crime
Right.
comics while we were doing it.
Yeah.
I know some and have read my fair share, but I didn't want to have anything to do with those
Yeah.
while I was writing it.
Yeah.
That's for later.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just cut it right out.
Has to come out, you know. I think that's normal.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because I do feel that any writer could be influenced by anybody else's book or TV show for that matter. You know, if you were in the midst of writing yourself, it is always possible. Yeah. Have you ever felt like you got influenced by anybody
Oh, sure.
when you're writing though?
While I'm writing, oh no, I would work away from it.
Yeah.
Unless I was trying to make some sort of like a tip of the hat or like some sort of joke or
Okay.
some sort of in joke, or
Yeah.
maybe I wouldn't.
Have
But
you done that?
I probably have, but I can't. Nothing's coming to mind.
Yeah.
I'm sure I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure I have.
Do you have a particular area of book, like a genre that you prefer over others, or do you? Because it seems like you're all over the place. And
I probably read crime novels more than anything else.
really.
But I also try to be, and I think this is a really good habit, is if you say you want to be a horror novelist, I think it's a really good idea to read a lot of other things. So if you want to be a horror novelist, and you should totally read like prize-winning mainstream fiction and see what you can draw from that to take with you into, or read police procedurals or whatever, and try to see what you can take from that into this field where your heart lies, because then you are going to come up with a mix that's different than everybody else.
Yeah. Do you prefer books to television when you're working in them? I should say.
Oh no, I like everything.
Yeah.
The same.
Well, TV is so weird sometimes. You know, there's some of the stuff you've got to deal with compared to working solo doing a book or even a comic book where you're collaborating. So.
Oh, I mean, you mean as a writer?
Yeah.
No, I like everything. I guess novels are my very favorite, but I get burned out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. So that's why I do those other things that I love. Get refreshed.
Okay.
And then the novel refreshes me for those other things.
Okay. I can see that.
It's a cycle.
Yeah. What do you like to start with? Is the book first, and then you?
I guess I started with a book.
Yeah.
My first book when I was, my late 20s.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Any questions while we're at it? You got any more, Ryan?
I mean, you went, so.
Yeah.
You got one?
Yeah, and a comment or two.
Go ahead.
Owen, I've seen your name, of course, at the dedication of a lot of your dad's books.
Mm-hmm.
I'm behind about a dozen or so of his, but I have yet to get into stuff for yourself. But part of what I wanted to ask is, whose idea was it that you decided, or your dad decided, let's do something together? Was that the first thing you had done writing-wise and put out? You know what I mean?
Together? Yeah, we well, I had the idea. It was just like a one sentence idea. I thought to myself, oh, what if one morning all the women in the world didn't wake up? They went to sleep and they didn't wake up. That was the one sentence pitch, because that's something that we do. Everybody in the family will say, we're all writers, and so people will pitch each other things, but it's not for actually doing usually. It's for funsies, right? It's like, what if I don't know, the bad one would be like, what if everybody at Comic-Con was a zombie or whatever? But so people do a lot of what ifs, but that one I thought to myself, oh, actually that's really good. But I didn't think that I wanted to write it, and so I said to my dad, and it was probably the only time in my life I've ever said to my dad, I said, Dad, I had a really good idea, and I think actually this is something you should consider, because, people will come up to him when he's taking a leak or, pumping gas or whatever, and be like, I've got a hell of a novel for you. And it's usually like, I don't know, not a hell of a novel idea. But in this case, I thought to myself, wow, this is a great idea. There's something in this that feels very him, and maybe he would really love this. And I told him, and he was like, wow, that's a really good idea. You should do that. And, or we should do that. I can't remember. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I was writing something else. But then, you know, we both kept talking about it. And at some point, we started discussing how we might do it. And that's how it happened. Do you have one, Ryan?
Oh, yeah. Since you're breaking into comics and you were a fan when you were younger, what were your favorites? And do you have any, like, basically dream projects, like if Marvel or DC or Image or Dark Horse or anybody was like, hey, do you want to do this character? You're like,
Yeah, I would do it.
this.
Well, let's see. I mean, my early comic book memories were, you know, those Claremont X-Men's with Hellfire Club and all that stuff. I loved those, the Dark Phoenix saga. And I was, you know, the period of comics that I was getting when I was a kid were also a lot of those McFarlane Spider-Man and Hulks. But then also, we had a used bookstore before we had a comic book store in my town, and the used bookstore had a couple long boxes, like moth-eaten long boxes, and man, we used to check on these boxes like every week as if they were like materialized new comics in there or something. But yeah, I would find all kinds of crazy things in there, like Classics Illustrated or you know, Marvel annuals and things like that. So I would read anything we could get our hands on that were comics. So
Yeah.
I was trying to think what else. And then for characters, jeez.
Go Z list. Go
Go Z list.
Yeah, you know you want to.
Well, I was saying to John how much I love Plastic Man No More, and I feel like it kind of I don't read a ton of superhero comic books, but I felt like it was exactly the kind of thing that I would want to do with a superhero, where it's kind of making you think about them in a different way, but still telling a really compelling story that's very, very accessible. You know what would be my dream would be to my comic book dream would be to get to do a Goon story with Eric Powell. That would be my dream. But he doesn't need me. He's doing just fine. He's so good at doing it himself. I can't imagine why. But if there was ever you know, like a tribute anthology or something, that would be the dream. But I'd be open to all kinds of stuff if it felt right.
Would you do a Popeye story? Now he's public domain.
Popeye. I mean, yeah, if there was a great artist who was like, Owen, I'm dying to draw Popeye, I'd be like, all right, well, let me see what I can come up with. Yeah, let me see what I can come up with. But isn't the public domainness of it all make him a little less attractive? Because, like, what's his home?
The sea.
The sea, beside, yeah, at the Spinach Factory, whatever. Yeah, but you know, like if there's no publisher that's exactly controlling him, I don't know. It feels like you could end up with competing Popeyes.
Well,
that could be stressful.
I think that's actually going to happen. Yeah.
Have they made like a fly-by-night horror movie about him yet?
I think there is. There's three.
Yeah. See.
Yeah, it did well enough, and now they're going to do more.
No, there's three independent. So exactly what you're talking about in comics has happened in horror films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same thing's about to happen to Superman.
Yeah. Eventually, Superman's going to go public domain, and yeah, everyone's going to have a Superman out there. But yeah, it's going to be weird.
Do you have one more for us, Ryan, or take us home?
Yeah, sure. Have you ever talked with Joe Hill, your brother, about doing a collaboration?
Well, we did one many years ago. We wrote a script together. That's one of my very favorite things we did, and you know, it got optioned a couple times and ended up in turnaround. But we might pull it out of dry dock someday. You never know. We would probably have to do it somewhere. We would have to do it a different way though, because it's not. It's got some rights problems, rights issues. They're not ours. In that medium, they're not ours. We would have to do it in a different way. It'd have to be a book or a comic or an opera.
And you were involved with the new Stand series.
I was, yes.
Yeah. You had a producer credit?
I was writer on it.
You're a writer.
Yes.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you were just a
Just a producer.
Just
No,
a
I
producer.
wrote a couple of the episodes.
Just a
I
producer.
like that one a lot.
Thanks.
You brought up the stand, but I like that one a lot.
Nice.
I like the original one too, but this new one was like frightening at times.
Yes, I love. Well, I think I'm super biased, but I think it came out great, and I particularly love Owen Teague as Harold. I thought it really did a great job.
He was great. As Harold. Absolutely. In Toto.
In Toto, yeah.
Is there anything in TV that you really want to work in?
I mean, mostly my own projects are
Yeah.
probably the thing that I'm most excited about. My own TV projects.
Well, I would be, yeah. I mean, and anything you can bring up?
Well, I think I think it's a possibility for self-help. You know,
Yeah.
we've been working with some people for a while, and I don't have any news to break yet. But
Yeah.
we've been working with a production company for a while, and some different talents attached, and hopefully it's going to happen. We'll see.
I do want to say, if you haven't read Self-Help, I highly recommend it. It was very good. It's very cinematic. The characters are super strong. For a comic to get the characters out and into your face as quickly as they were, it's hard to do. I mean, a lot of these companies like to drag their introductory stories out for like issue and issue and issue, but you pretty much got it done in the first few pages. And it was very good, and I could see it being a show or a series or even a movie. I mean, not knowing the end yet, but
Right.
but it's a great book. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna enjoy diving into all the other books too when I have a time. But no, Self-Help is excellent, and I hope it does go.
Yeah, well, we got the next run of the comic book is coming,
Yeah.
and Antonio Fuso is drawing the second series,
Which is a great
and that will
episode.
wrap up the story.
Really? Yeah. That's 5 issues or
5 more issues.
yeah, 5. Yeah. Image Comics again.
Probably.
Probably.
But we're gonna finish. We're almost. Antonio's. Let's see. He's drawing the 4th issue right now. The 5.
Okay.
So we haven't completely sorted out everything, but one way or another, it's gonna work out.
Okay.
All right.
You're gonna wait until all 5 issues are drawn and finished before you
I think
start?
so.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Get them right out there.
Before we start doing
The
before-
solicitations,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Do you? This is gonna be weird. Do you find the distributor problems right now are gonna be are gonna make it difficult for the comic out there?
I don't know. I don't understand them totally. I come from a different publishing background,
Yeah.
and I don't totally understand them, but I have learned a lot through the process of the first 5 issues of the series coming out, and I love comic book stores. I didn't totally understand how it worked.
It's different. It's
It
a
is
different-
different, and you kind of, their margin is tight, and you have to hustle in a different way. There's not a ton of like media for comic books.
And Image, it's up to you guys, the creators, to actually do more of the media for whatever you're selling, as opposed to Image doing a lot of it. There just isn't a fund for them. So I
love the book that I love what they did with Self-Help.
Yeah.
And probably read more Image comic books than anything else.
Yeah, well, it was years ago when I wasn't reading any Image comics, but I read more of them now because of the diversity of things.
Yeah.
I do enjoy it a lot.
There's just so many different things.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a big crowd. It's hard to get your voice out there, especially for a book like Self-Help, when it feels like it's just costumes. The costumes are everywhere, and a book like Self-Help could get lost in all that. And I really hope it doesn't. I want it to be heard. It's really that good.
Well, the great thing is once you make something, it's there and people
Yeah.
can find it.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. We have any other questions?
That just sounds like you're gonna have to do some more book tours, signings, appearances, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In addition to working with these stores, and I'm friends with a guy who's runs his own little store down in Fort Lauderdale, and who's closing and who's not carrying this, and so it's a whole other animal type thing. And this is, of course, what I co-host the podcast. You inadvertently or accidentally, just like with your father, my podcast partner met. His name is Peter Melnick.
Oh, yes.
Peter.
And I think we're scheduled to talk to you maybe next month or something.
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
our
well, we will
podcast.
definitely talk.
So I said I'll have to get a selfie with you and say that I saw you here.
Yes. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Goon Curator, let's go, man.
Yeah.
Crossover.
All right.
Fit in that world.
We want a Hellboy book. What?
What? No.
Hellboy's a good one too.
There you go.
Would you do Hellboy?
I guess, yeah. I would
Yeah.
Hellboy. I mean, I'd have to think about. I'd have to think about it a little bit. You know what I always wonder about? I know we're wrapping up.
Yeah, that's
With
fine. We got plenty of time.
with characters like Doctor Strange or the Hulk or, I don't know, Captain America. Their history is so extensive that I always wonder how the writer. I've talked to Charles a little bit about this, how the writer figures out like the continuity of what is allowed and what is not allowed and where the character is now and what is now.
I think a lot of that has to do with who the editor is at the time that they're working for.
Hopefully you have a good editor,
They
yeah.
will help guide them through all of those potential pitfalls, and they can sort of cherry pick which parts of continuity they want to look at when it comes to the story, especially if what they're doing is more of a self-contained arc as opposed to like part of the monthly runs that they do
Yeah.
each and every. You know, in something like Hellboy, which had been brought up, that's a character that can now, because it's been around so long, can kind of fall into that same thing. But a big part of the difference between Hellboy and Captain America is Hellboy has always just been the instrument by which those stories can be told, as opposed to Captain America being the focal point of those stories. So I really think it depends on the character itself each time, and then what the editor gives you the thumbs up on.
Right. I mean, I always think of Sherlock Holmes. It's like anybody can write a Sherlock Holmes story because we have a sense of what the span of time is.
Right.
So he's doing his thing between, I forget what it is, but say 1890 and 1910. And so you can think to yourself, okay, I'm going to drop this one in after the Blue Carbuncle, sort of ish. Because he's not going to mention, you're not going to bring up every case he's ever done in the course of the story, but you have a little bit of an idea, and so you can do that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Is there a character like Hellboy that you wish you had created? Would you? Well, let's put it this way: would you actually create something like that with the expansive universe that a Hellboy has, and really want to run with it?
Maybe if I thought if I had a character of my own that could have more than one adventure. I usually croak them after one adventure, so I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Yeah,
It's the Marvel way.
yeah.
Well, one movie, dead.
I can see it though. There's nothing wrong with having finality to a story.
Yeah.
No, there is.
Well, and also that, then if you prevent other people from messing with it.
Sure.
It's like, sorry, character's dead.
Remember the media though.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah, I know.
They always come
They always
back.
come back.
You
Yeah.
can always write a loophole.
Right.
No, it's a horror movie. He's dead. He's been dead before.
Yeah.
All right, cool. He's back.
Exactly.
Exactly. What? Magic.
Is Charles Soule going to ask you to collaborate with him at some point?
This is our collaboration. It's just
Ah.
getting me through Comic-Con. Getting me through Terrificon, yes. Yeah.
Well, I hope you have a great time here at Terrificon.
All
It's going to be great.
Thanks, John,
you.
and thank you all for
Yeah.
coming.
Excelsior!